Welcome to the 4-3 Cover 3 Masterclass Guide, the complete step-by-step system for building a defense that forces offenses to play slow, patient, mistake-filled football. This isn't a blitz-heavy scheme. This is a structure built on discipline, spacing, and suffocating coverage integrity. In this guide, I'm going to show you exactly how to set up your franchise for long-term success, from identifying roster needs, to building your scouting board, to hiring the right scouts, to using the bust-proof system that I've developed to evaluate every single prospect in the draft class. If you want more masterclass guides just like this one, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me which scheme you want next. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out, okay, what actual positions do I need to run a successful 4-3 cover 3 defense? So I've got that answer for you. Write this down. So this is the starting step number one of this system. You're going to want 2 left edge, 2 right edge, 4 D tackles, 2 SAMs, 2 Mikes, 2 Wills, 5 corners, 2 free safeties, 2 strong safeties. So now that once you've had all that written down, you've got your basis, your key 23 players for this defense. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go down to GM's office and go down to team salaries. And then you're going to, obviously in this guy we're just doing for defense right now, so we're going to go over to left edge. So what you're going to do is look over here at this column that says 2026, or whatever that next season is for you. If you happen to be in 2027, obviously you're looking at 2028. So what you're going to do is you're going to write down the players' names, ages, and overalls that are signed for 2026 already. So these are players that are guaranteed to be on your roster that could potentially be the piece of your scheme that starts at that position or is the key backup and rotational piece for that system. So for instance, we're going to have Rosu with 25 and 88 written down. We're not going to write Epineza. We will write down Solomon at 24 and 69. At right edge, Bosa is retiring, but we want him on a re-sign. I'm going to want to re-sign Bosa. We're probably going to be cutting Michael Hoyt, and Jackson is a rookie. So I'm going to put Bosa down with 3086, and I'm going to put re-sign next to his name. And then for the second spot, I'm going to put Jackson at 2273. Then you're going to go through and do that for every single position. So for D tackle, obviously you have Oliver, Sanders, Walker, and Carter. You'll write down those 4 with their ages and their overalls. And then again, do that for all of them. And then once you're done, you should have something that looks a little like this. So as you can see, I have everything filled out, and I've got 2 re-signs. I'm going to be re-signing Milano and Bosa. So what I've noticed is I have 2 SAM spots that are open, a corner spot that's open, and a free safety spot that's open. So what does this tell me? That those are 4 of the key positions that I'm looking for in my draft, not in free agency, in the draft. I don't want to fill holes with bridges or stopgaps. I want to draft a long-term answer for those holes. So the next thing you want to do is, now that we've identified our roster needs, we want to set up a priority list. So our first 4 priorities is obviously those. So after that, you'll set up your secondary priorities, which is going to be a little different than what most of you have probably done. So here's just a little guide to help. So for me, needs and orders, your 2 SAMs and free safety and cornerback that's empty. And then free agency and drafting in the late rounds, the first thing you'd write down is anyone age 30 or older, regardless of their overalls. Because they're in regression, they're at the tail end of their careers, or soon to be, and they're not going to be long-term pieces for you. So you want to start drafting developmental players to eventually take their places, or trying to get late round gems for those positions as you go. So first it's anyone 30 or older, then it will be anyone at 70 overall or less that is 23 or older. They don't have a high ceiling if their floor is already where it's at. So you're going to want to write them down. And then the final one would be anyone 75 overall or less that is already 25 or older, because they're not going to gain much more traction. So they are essentially at their peaks for the most part. So that's all people you want to eventually replace, not necessarily next season, but in the next couple of seasons, And then this is also, like I said, where you would do free agency. So you find that big name that dropped in, great, let's sign him for 2-3 years. He'll be the stopgap for us for that position until we get a developmental piece or whatever the case may be. So that's how I set up my priority list. So now that we have the priority list set up, it's time to move into the preseason. So you're going to go ahead and slow sim your games, make your cuts, and do whatever you're going to need to do. And then we'll pick back up in week 1. Now that we're here in week 1, we're going to select our draft class, build our initial scouting board. This is where we decide which scouts we're hiring, which regions they're covering, and which positions they'll specialize in. So the first thing we're going to do is choose draft class, and I always do keep auto-generated rookies. You can do whatever you like. Just with my slider system and the way AI acts, I tend to just do auto-generated because people tend to like to change a lot of things when they're doing their imported classes. And traits and everything else changes AI logic. So just for how I do my franchises, I always do keep auto-generated. So now that that's done, the next thing you want to do is go into scouts and fire every scout that's here. Okay? Because you do not need any of them, because with the system I'm showing you, you're going to be hiring all of your own scouts based off of your personal needs. So a quick check back at what our needs were. We had these as our needs. So then you want to turn these into a next level type format to help you while you're doing your prospects, figuring out prospects in each region, stuff like that. So obviously Sam's turn into linebackers, Will's, Mike's, they all turn into linebackers. Both edges will just be edge. And then obviously free safety is just going to be safety. And then once you have it all figured out, you should now have a piece of paper or logbook or whatever you're using that looks like this. So as you can see, we have all the positions jotted down based off of what they are and our needs, along with National, West, Central, Northeast, and Southeast. So now that you have that, we can move on to the next step. The next step is to actually go in and look at your prospects. So what we're going to do is, obviously you do offense too, normally in your own drafts, but I'm just covering defense in just this guide. You start with left edge. So you're going to do left edge and right edge together. So we've got, and you're only doing rounds 1 through 4. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 7. That's 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. So we'd write 17 down next to edge and national. Then we go to the west. We've got 2 and 1. So that's 3 for the west. Then in central, we've got 3 and 1. So that's 4. In the northeast, we're going to have 2, that's 4. We'll have 5. And then in the southeast, we're going to have 2, and with another 3 is 5. Now, you're going to go through and do that for every position. Just remember, when you get here, Sam's, Mike's, and Will's will all fall under linebacker, middle linebacker, or whatever you write down. And then free safeties and strong safeties will all fall under safety. So, you do that for all those positions. And then once you're done, you should have something that looks like this. And as you can see, once it's done, you have all your national, west, central, northeast, and southeast labeled out. So now what we have to do is decide which one are we going to cover in each region. So I start off by looking at the west. The one with the most is defensive tackle with 4. In the central, the one with the most is cornerbacks at 5. In the northeast, the one with the most is edge with 5. Then in the southeast, since we already have those 3, the next highest, which is still up there, is safety with 4. So I will do 7 at national for the middle linebacker. And there's a couple of reasons why I don't just do, let's say, edges like most people do. Oh, there's 17 edges, so let's do national there. No, because you don't need to identify every single one of the players, because you're going to have enough stuff during your scouting unlocked in order to eliminate a majority of the players anyways. So the key thing is here is you, and the reason we're focused on strictly 1 through 4 is because you want to make sure that you're identifying the busts and getting them removed. You're not looking for the gems in this portion. You're looking to unlock as much information to remove the busts that aren't working in your scheme, that don't have the attributes that you need. Because remember, at the end of the day, a 72 overall with the right attributes is going to perform better than an 80 overall with the wrong ones. So keep that in mind. Overalls don't mean everything, and that's part of this system. So same thing goes to scouts. So a lot of people are going to put a 3-star scout in here in national. I will not. I will never use a 3-star Scout on National. I will use a 2. Gives you just enough information that you need and allows you to use your 3-star for the one with the most in an individual region that doesn't get as much uncovered. So here, that would be cornerback or edge. I'd say our biggest need would be corner over edge. So I would do a 3-star here, 2-star in National, a 1-star everywhere else. So then once you have that figured out, your paper or logbook or whatever you're using should look like this. So as you can see, 2-star for middle linebacker in National, a 1-star for the safety in the Southeast, a 3-star for the corner in the Central, a 1-star for the edge in the Northeast, and a 1-star for a defensive tackle in the West. Now we can go ahead and go sign our scouts. So you exit out of here, go to scouts, and then since they're all fired, you're going to go to free agent scouts. So the first thing we're going to do is I start with my national. So I'm looking for middle linebacker. The reason I do linebacker and not like Sam or Will or whatever is because you can find them in all the categories. Same thing when you're doing like with this 4-3. You can get edges that are D tackles, you know, not necessarily edges. So that's something else we have to watch for. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to keep it separate as, you know, the edge is going to be edge. The D tackle is going to be D tackle just for simplicity's sake while I do this. But as you're all aware, you can get different things in different, you know, positions. So make sure you're identifying those as well with the same strategy. So first thing we're going to do is get our, again, 2-star linebacker. So we're going to go down to linebacker, and our options is going to be tight end for a secondary or interior O-line for a secondary. So since neither of those really matter for us in this one, it doesn't matter, but you want to make sure you're selecting the one that gives you the best, since the secondary position does unlock a little bit as well. So for us, we're just going to go ahead and we'll just choose tight end. It's not really a big deal. So next will be our 1-star for the West, which would be for a D tackle. So our options there will be interior O-line for secondary, interior O-line, Mike, which is a middle linebacker, edge, and then that's it. Well, our next highest in the West after D tackle was an edge with 3 and then a safety with 2. So I'm thinking we'll go ahead and do the one with edge, so we get a little bit more of edges unlocked. So now we move on to the Central, and that's going to be a cornerback, and that's going to be our 3-star. So our 3-star options is with Mike, a wide receiver, and a safety. So then when I reflect back on our Central, the corners had 5, edges had 4, D tackles and safeties had 3. So based off of what secondary expertise I have available, my best option would be to go to the cornerback with safety as the secondary expertise. So that's what we're going to hire. Now we move on to the Northeast Scout, which is going to be our edge. So, and this is a 1-star, and then an edge. They were all 1s except for a middle linebacker. So we're just going to look for a linebacker that's a 1-star, and what do you know? Our very first one, it is. So we're going to hire him, and boom. Now we go to the Southeast. And of course, that was a 1-star for the safety. So let me flip this around and go down to safeties. And then here, so our top options were D tackle and edge over safety. So if we have a safety one that has either of those, we're going to want to pick them, which we don't. But we have corner. So corner only had 1, so that doesn't really help us too much. And the other safeties are all offense. So the corner is about all we can do. So it's still 1 player, so better than nothing. So we'll go ahead and do that. And now that that's done, we need to go ahead and assign all of our scouts. So again, we know our 2-star is the national. And then we know our West was for the D tackle. So D tackle goes to the West. And I went the wrong way. And then in Central was our corner 3-star. So we go to Central for that. Northeast was our edge. And the Southeast was our safety. So now that we've got all of our scouts set and everything else is done, we are now finished with week 1. So we go ahead and just sim our games, do whatever you're going to do for the season, and then you don't touch any scouting or anything until we get to week 3. All right, now they're at week 3. This is where we set our regional scouting focus. Each regional scout gets assigned the position we hired them for back in week 1. So we go into regional focus scouting, choose regional scouting focus. National's not done, that's in week 8. So we go to West, and we know that was for our D tackle. So we're going to move over and select D tackle. The central we know was for our corner, so we're going to select corner. The northeast was for edge, so we'll select edge. And then the southeast was for safety, and we're going to select safety. So now that we have all of that done, we are done with scouting until week 8. All right, now we're in week 8, and we only have one job, to set the national scout focus. You pick the position that matters most to your long-term roster plan, which we set at week 1. So scouting national focus, choose national focus position, set scouting, and this will be linebacker. And we select linebacker. And now, once that's set, we're done until week 13. So if this guide's helping you build your scouting system, make sure you're subscribed because the full Defensive Masterclass series is coming next. And if you want printable scouting sheets, draft board templates, and exclusive rebuild systems, those will all be available soon through channel memberships and on my Patreon page. But for now, let's jump back to the guide. Now we're in week 13, and this is where everything comes together. This is where we build our draft board using the bust-proof system. We're going to go position by position, using minimum physicals, minimum core attributes, and red flags to eliminate busts from all 7 rounds of the draft. So, let's go ahead and get started. So you go to Scout College Players and Prospects. So obviously in this one, we're only doing defense again, so let's go to left edge. So at left edge, we're going to go ahead and start with physicals. So you might not be able to see everything on the screen, but at least you'll be able to see that. So these are our minimum requirements. So if they don't have at least this, then they're going off the draft board. So some people were saying that they wouldn't mind having a few more chances of a bust just to make it more realistic. So I did lower everything down 1 rank. So just remember that. So if you have too many players or you want it to be more accurate, raise everything by a letter grade or a physical grade. So like for acceleration, we're looking for good. If you really want to zero it in, raise it up to great, and so on and so forth. But for here, we're going to go ahead. So we're going to go to acceleration. And anyone that has this specific grade or has this grade possible within their range, we're going to keep on our board. So for acceleration, we're looking for anyone that is good. So we're going to go ahead and just click everyone that's good or has a chance to be good. And we have our first batch here for left edge. So you don't have to do this, but I don't like drafting 23-year-olds because I feel like we're losing 1 to 2 years of development. So I do remove them from my board usually. So I'm going to remove all the 23-year-olds I have, and that narrows me down some more. So the next attribute that I look at is speed. They need to have at least decent speed. So let's go ahead and move over to speed. Decent, margin of poor, he's off the board. These could have decent, good, 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 and good. So that removed another player off our board. And now the next thing we're going to look at is agility, which needs to at least be decent. So we'll go over to agility. Decent, decent, marginal poor, he's gone. And those guys are good. So we are down to what, 6, give or take. Next is strength. They need to have at least marginal strength. So at this point, usually they're all still on there, which it is, because it marginal shares with poor. So as of right now, they all still remain on. But when we get to the final step, which is the week before the draft, that's when we fine tune this a little bit more. But now that we have the physicals done and we've figured it out, let's go ahead and go over to attributes and see if they've unlocked any of the attributes we're looking for. So the first thing we're going to look for is finesse moves. Needs to be at least a C. And now on the screen that you're seeing, all of those are ranked by importance for the position, both the physicals in order and the core attributes in order. So if you are having a draft where it's very weak and you're not meeting those things, you can start dropping letter grade 1 by 1 just to try to get somebody that are the best available by starting at the bottom of each of those 2 lists. So the bottom of the physicals, which would be strength, or for core attributes would be power moves. So again, finesse moves, we want at least a C. So this guy is a D. He's gone. D, he's gone. It's a round 1 gone. He's not a finesse moves rusher, so it doesn't matter for us. Obviously, you do power rusher for this as well afterwards. I'm only going to do one on each side just for sake of length of the video, but obviously you're going to do the same thing. So you would just write down the names of the speed rushers so that you can remove them, start fresh on the board, and do the same thing for power, and then just add back in your speed, and then you'll have your stuff for both power and speed for both left edge and on right edge, since they could both be at both positions in the draft. So that brings us down to 4. Our next thing is pursuit, which needs to be at least a C. So we're going to go over to pursuit. So let's find pursuit right there. So C, B, B, and unknown. So he stays on the board because it's unknown right now. So the next thing is play rec, needs to be at least a D. So we're going to go over to play rec, which is actually over here. And they all meet that right now. So the next thing is block shedding, which needs to be at least a D. So block shedding is right there. We've got a D, C, C on F, and unknown. Next is power moves, needs to be at least a D, and we're good on that. So for now, all of these guys stay on there. So some key red flags. And these are, even if you're having a weak draft, if they have acceleration below solid, finesse moves below C, pursuit below C, or speed below marginal, they are not to go on your draft board. They are automatically declared bust. Do not waste your time with them. All right, so now that we're done with our left edges for now, let's go ahead and move over to our right edge. All right, so now that we're at our right edge, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start with physicals, and we're going to go over to strength. So they need to have at least good strength to be on the board. So we're going to go ahead and select anybody that has the possibility of having good selected, which we've done. And then we're going to go ahead and go over to acceleration, which needs to be at least solid. So for those of you that don't know, it goes obviously elite, great, good, solid, decent, marginal, and then poor. So when we need at least solid, marginal poor does not work. Decent marginal does not work. Those will work. Decent does not work. That's fine. That doesn't work. That's fine, 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 and fine. So now we've eliminated some of that, so we're down to this. So now after acceleration, we need speed needs to be at least marginal. So again, that's pretty much guaranteed right now, which it is. Everybody's that or higher. And then agility needs to be at least marginal, and right now that's all going to be there as well. So now we're going to go ahead and take these guys and go over to our attribute section. So first attribute we look for is power moves. This needs to be at least a C. So we go power moves, unknown, unknown, B, C to F, B, A to C, B. They're all good for right now. So the next thing would be block shed. So let's go down to the last one that's on our board, which is right there. And we need block shed. So, and again, block shed needs to be at least a C. So unknown, unknown, C, C, up, D, he's removed. Fine. D, he's removed. Top 5 pick, doesn't matter. I don't care what it's saying for projection or talent. I'm going based off of scheme fits. What do we need? So we have that now. So now we're down to these guys. And then the next thing would be pursuit, which needs to be at least a C. So we're at pursuit, and they all fit it. Next would be play rec, needs to be at least a D. They all fit that for now. And then finesse moves need to be at least a D. So unknown, and we've got F's here. So F, F, and F. And they're both 23, so normally I would remove them, but I'm going to leave them on for now just so there's you can see a couple of day 3s just in case down the road. I may eliminate them in the further one, but yeah, so that is it now for right edge for this draft. Okay, now we move on to defensive tackles. So first thing we're going to do is go to physicals and go over to strengths. So again, this needs to be at least a great. So we're going to get anybody that could have great on our board to start. All right, so next thing would be acceleration needs to be at least solid. So anybody below solid we're removing, and they're all on there for solid. So that's good for now. Next is speed, which all needs to be marginal, which will all be on there for right now, and agility, which is marginal, and they'll all be that for now. So we're actually going to move over to the attributes. And the first thing we're going to look at is block shedding. It needs to be at least a C. So we're going to go down to the bottom and go over to block shedding. And remove anybody that's not at least a C or has the ability for a C, which everybody does. So let's go back down to the bottom of our drafting board here. There we go. And the next thing would be power moves needs to be at least a C. And so far, everyone is. So again, we go back to the bottom. Is right here. And next is pursuit. Needs to be at least a D. So pursuit, play rec, and finesse moves. So this one, pursuit's good, play rec's good, finesse moves is good. And essentially we're looking for anything that's below a D. So we're looking for any F grades, and that's what we're going to remove. And nothing. So as of right now, we have quite a few D tackles still on the board. Again, I'd remove ages. So like I'll remove this since we do have so many, because this is what I normally do. So it drops that down. And now we can go ahead and move on to SAMs. All right, and now for linebackers, just remember, you're going to look for SAMs, Wills, and Mikes in all three of them. So you're going to do triple what I'm doing right now, but I'm just going to do like I said, just like I did for the edges, I'm just going to do one on each side, just for sake of the length of this video. So let's go ahead and we'll start off with physicals. We're looking for speed, needs to be at least solid. So we go to speed, and we're going to put anybody on the board that can do at least solid, which is right there. The rest of them cannot. Next is acceleration, must be solid. So he's gone, he's gone. And that brings us down to them. Next is going to be change of direction, needs to be at least decent. Which they all are. And then agility needs to be at least decent, which they all are. So they all pass the physical ranks. Let's go ahead and go over to core attributes now. So now that we're in core attributes, the first thing we're looking for is zone coverage needs to be at least a C. So let's go over to zone coverage right there. And they all have that ability for right now. Next is play rec needs to be at least a C. So they all have that. Pursuit needs to be at least a C. And they all have that. Tackling needs to be a D, which they all have that. Block shed needs to be a D. They all have that. And then man coverage needs to be a D. And they all have that. So as of right now, all of these guys are options for us for SAM, which is perfect because we need two of them. So it's good that we do have multiple options. And again, I have a 23-year-old, I'll remove. Now we can do mics. So again, we're going to go to physicals. And speed is first. Again, they must all have solid. Okay, we've got that. Now, acceleration needs to be at least solid. Decent marginal does not fit. So he is removed. Change of direction needs to be at least decent. Marginal poor is gone. So that drops another one. And then agility needs to be at least decent. So let's go back down to the bottom of our thing. Over to agility. Marginal poor is gone. So now off of those rankings, that takes 5 of them into our attribute check. So the first attribute we're going to check is tackling needs to be at least a C. I see 2 Ds, gone and gone. So we'll restructure it here. There we go. Next is going to be pursuit needs to be at least a C. None of them are uncovered, so they stay for now. Play rec needs to be a C. They're all good for now. Block shedding needs to be a C. He's removed, so that drops down to 2 after block shedding. Next is zone coverage and man coverage. Both need to be Ds. And they're both good for now. So we are good on mics now. And then he's 23, so I will remove him. So we have 1 mic possibly for the draft. So now let's go ahead and move over to wills. So now for wills, once again, we go to physicals. First thing we do is change of direction. So that's going to be solid. So that's pretty much going to be everybody on the board to start, which is fine. Next, you're going to speed, which needs to be solid or higher. So looks like everybody stays on the board for now. It's just this one page. Next is acceleration needs to be solid. They all stay on the board. Agility needs to be decent. So everybody stays on the board for now. So now we go to attributes. And we still have everybody on the board. So first thing we do is go to zone coverage. And we need at least a C. So if they can't get a C, which they all can, they're good for now. Pursuit must be a C. Oh, there's a D. He's gone. We got our first removal of the board. And then play rec needs to be at least a D. And for now, that is good. Tackling needs to be a D. And for now, that's good. Man coverage needs to be a D. And for now, that is all good. So, and I haven't been going over the red flags, but as you can see, everyone has red flags. This one's change of direction below decent and zone coverage below C. Just don't even bother with them. But we are done now. I'm going to go ahead and remove anybody that's 23 or older. Again, that's just my prerogative. You don't necessarily have to do that. But that's what I like to do. Now, we can go ahead and move to corners. All right, so on them, we're going to start physicals and go to speed. Needs to be at least good. So again, we'll get everybody on that's at least good. And that's going to be quite a bit usually on corners, which is fine. So we have that. Next is going to be acceleration, must be at least good. So gone, 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 gone. So eliminate quite a few just from the acceleration thing that we have there. So now we're down to these. Next thing is agility, must be decent. So agility, marginal poor, gone. All right, so now that drops that down. And then jumping needs to be decent because they need to be able to jump with the receivers. Marginal poor gone, marginal poor gone, marginal poor gone. So now we're down to 4. And then change of direction needs to be at least marginal, which it will have right now. So now we go to core attributes. So now here we are with that. First one's going to be zone coverage. Needs to be at least a C. They're good there. Play rec needs to be at least a C. Gone and gone. So now we're down to 2. Press needs to be at least a D, which it is. Man coverage needs to be at least a D, which it is. And catching needs to be at least a D, which it is. So we have 2. I will leave this one since we only have so few on corners, the 23-0, but normally I would not. But I mean, plus he's 6'3", 200 pounds. That's a pretty good developmental piece, most likely. But we'll see. Now that we're done with corners, we can go to free safeties. So now on free safeties, we're going to start with speed, like we did for corners, and it needs to be good or higher. So we'll go over to speed, and anybody that can get good, we're going to put on the board. There we go. Next is acceleration, must be at least good. So gone and gone, and the rest of them are fine. Next is change of direction, must be decent. They're all fine. Agility needs to be decent, and they're all fine. Jumping needs to be decent. Dotary is gone. So now, after our physicals, we are down to 4. We'll go over to attributes. Zone coverage is first with a C. We're good for now. Play rec is a C. Oh, he's gone. Pursuit needs to be at least a D. We're fine there. Tackling needs to be a D. We are fine there. And man coverage needs to be a D. And we're fine there. So for free safeties, we have 3 potential options. And again, if we want to remove ages, I would remove a top 5 pick. which I will. Actually, I'll leave him on just so I can show you guys. I'll do a focus on it. We'll see what they say his talent or whatever is and how he clears out. I'll keep him on there just because he, there is a few. But now that we're done with free safeties, let's go ahead and go to strong safety. All right, now in strong safeties, we're going to start with speed. This time it can be solid or higher. So if I go to the right screen, here we go, speed. And again, need to be solid or higher. So that's all we can get there. Now acceleration must be at least solid. So decents are gone. So let's revamp those. Brings us down to that. Strength needs to be at least decent. Marginal poor is gone. Let's resort those so I'm not putting them back on. I keep resorting so I don't accidentally add on one that I've removed on accident. So next is change of direction, needs to be at least decent, which he's gone. And then agility needs to be at least decent. And marginal poor does not fit that. So we're down to 3 to take into our core attributes side. So let's go to core attributes. First thing is zone coverage needs to be a C. Zone coverage, they're all good for now. Play rec needs to be a C. Gone and gone. So we have just one guy left. Pursuit needs to be a C. And it is. Tackling needs to be at least a D. It is. Man coverage needs to be at least a D. It is. Block shed needs to be at least a D. And it is. So that is now the strong safeties. Now we can take a look at our entire board. So now that we have our total board, you can see we have a total of 38 players. So again, if you want to narrow it down some more right now, you can take everything up a letter grade. But for this portion, that's okay, because you got to think about it. If you have about 40 on both sides, that'll give you a draft board of about 80 players, give or take, probably with both offense and defense. So now that we have all of that situated, we can now figure out who our focus players are. So how I do my focus players is these should be players who either have a round 1, 2, or 3 projection. They have elite physicals, but their attributes are incomplete, or have a chance to fill a long-term need. So for our instance, I'm going to go ahead and sort by this. So our biggest need is a linebacker. So I'm going to go down to linebackers, especially because of SAMs and whatnot. So I'm going to look here. So there's all of our linebackers. So I don't want to do undrafted free agents or day 3s right now. So we're going to kind of remove everybody below that. So I'm looking at just these round 1s and then round 2s to 3s. They're all going to be unlocked pretty quickly. So I don't need to worry about them. So my next need is corner. So let's find our corners, which it's not in order, I forgot. So we have 2. Day 3, around 1. He's at 80 though, so he's probably going to be uncovered. So we can skip the corner. So next was a free safety. So we have our safeties here. I see some that are below 60. So these guys might not be fully uncovered. And they all met all the criteria so far. So these would actually be the ones that I would first check. Now, the fact that where I'm at in the season, I'm probably not going to be a top 5 pick. I'm probably not going to be in the running for him, so I might not necessarily waste a focus scout on him. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to, but normally I wouldn't. So we're probably just going to do Meander, Phillips, and Banks. Since this one is at 60, and I can always get him on the last focus player if he's still on the board. So let's go ahead and exit out of this and go to scouting focus player. Choose focus player by favorites. And you can sort by here. And again, we're going to do Meander, Phillips, and Banks. We confirm it here. And now that that's done, there's nothing else to do until you get to the week before the draft. So now you can just sim the rest of your season, watch your games, have fun, enjoy all the stuff, but you have no other scouting needs you need to worry about until we get to that week. All right, and now we're in off season, week before the draft. This is where we go back through the board and make any of the final cuts based off the attributes that we've unlocked since week 13. And then once the board's clean, we'll choose our final 3 scouting focus players for our last few unlocks. So let's go ahead and jump right back into it. So again, we're starting with left edge. So we're going to acceleration, needs to be good or higher. It is. Next is speed, needs to be decent or higher. It is. Agility needs to be decent or higher. It is. Strength needs to be marginal or higher. And it is. So let's go ahead and go to the attributes now. We'll slide over, make sure we have them sorted out. We have our 4, so finesse moves needs to be a C. It is. Pursuit needs to be a C. It is. Play rec needs to be at least a D, which it is. Block shed needs to be at least a D, which it is. And power moves need to be at least a D, which it is. So we can keep them, or we can go up a letter grade if need be, but we'll see what we've got after all this is done. So let's go ahead and move to right edge. Now for right edge, we're going to go to physicals again. And strength needs to be good, which it is. Acceleration needs to be at least solid, which it is. Speed needs to be at least marginal, which it is. And agility at least marginal, which it is. So now we can go to attributes. First thing is power moves needs to be at least a C, which they both are. Block shed needs to be a C, which it's still in the range. Pursuit needs to be a C, which it is. Play rec needs to be at least a D, which it is. And finesse moves need to be at least a D, which as of right now it is. So they both stay. Now for D tackles, we're going to go to physicals again. And of course we start with strength. Let me get it sorted real quick because we have quite a few of these guys still around. So let's see if we're able to knock any of them out. Over to strength. Needs to be at least great, which they all are. And then we need acceleration needs to be at least solid. So let me go down to here again. And it all is. Then a speed needs to be marginal. So speed and agility is what we're looking at next. So if we see any pores, they're gone. And we don't, so let's go ahead and go to the attributes. And block shed needs to be a C. So let's get over to block shed. And they all have C's. Power moves needs to be a C. Let's get to the bottom. Power moves need to be a C. Oh, D's gone. D's gone. So we remove 2 players. Pursuit needs to be at least a D. All is for now. Play rec needs to be at least a D, which it looks like it all is for now. And then finesse moves need to be at least a D. Which they all are for now. So, since we still have so many, we're probably going to have to scout some out. Or what I can do is I can lift each one up a notch. So what I would actually do is start with core attributes on this one and look for block sheds and see if all the block sheds are a B or higher. So we'll eliminate all the C's. And as you see, that gets us down to 3. And eliminated all the ones we had for round 1s and higher. But that just means that these guys are a better fit for our scheme here. So now that we're down to 3, I'm good with that. So let's go ahead and move over to SAMs. So for SAMs, we'll go to physicals. We have quite a few of these guys still around too. We'll go to speed, needs to be at least solid, which it is. Acceleration needs to be at least solid, which it is. Change of direction needs to be at least decent, which they all are. Agility, decent, which they all are. So now we can go to attributes. And in zone coverage needs to be at least a C. Which they all are. Play rec needs to be at least a C, which they all are. Pursuit needs to be a C, which they all meet. Tackling at least a D, they all have that. Block shed at least a D, they all have that. And man coverage at least a D, and they all have that. So, with so many on here once again, we'll raise zone coverage up to a B, since that's the most important thing. And that eliminates these guys. And we have our one player left for Sam, which is Camarillo. So that helps us there. So let's go ahead and jump over to Mike's. Now on Mike's, same thing, go to physicals, start with speed. Do we even have any Mike's? We have one. So go over to speed. Solid is good. Acceleration needs to be solid. It is. Change of direction needs to be decent. Agility needs to be decent. It is. So let's go to attributes and see if this one guy makes it on our attributes. So tackling needs to be a C. It is. Pursuit needs to be a C. It is not. He is gone. There are no mics for us to draft. Now we go to wills. We have quite a few of them for now, but we will see if they stay around. So change of direction needs to be at least solid, which they all are. Speed needs to be at least solid, which they all are. Acceleration needs to be at least solid, which they all are. And agility at least decent, which they all are. So let's go to our attributes again. All right, and the first thing we're doing is zone coverage. Once again, we need at least a C. And they all have that. Pursuit needs to be at least a C. They all have that. Play rec at least a D. They all have that. Tackling at least a D, which they all have. And man coverage at least a D, which they all have. So, to eliminate a couple of them, we will lift zone coverage up to a B, which they all still have. So, next thing we would lift is change of direction from solid to good. So we will go back to physicals and go to change of direction. And they all meet that. So the next thing would be pursuit. And you kind of bounce back and forth between the two, starting with attributes on this one, since you're just increasing to try to narrow it down some. So now pursuit of at least a B. Let's see if that does there, if that's going to eliminate everybody. It does not, but it does eliminate a couple. So gone, gone, and gone. So that drops down our wills for a couple. And we have that. Now let's go to corners. We have 2 corners left. Let's see if they meet our physicals here. So speed needs to be at least good, which it is. Acceleration needs to be good. It is. Agility decent, which it is. Jumping decent, which it is. Change of direction marginal, which it is. So let's go ahead and go to the attributes. And then zone coverage needs to be at least a C, which it is. Play rec at least a C. We're good. Press at least a D. We're good. Man coverage at least a D. We're good. Etching at least a D. We're good. So we have 2 quality cornerbacks. Now, free safeties. We do have 3 left. Let's go ahead and go to the physicals for them. So first thing we're going to do is speed needs to be at least good, which they all are. Acceleration should be good. They all are. Change of direction decent. They all are. Agility decent. They're good. And jumping decent. They're good. So let's go to attributes. All right, zone coverage needs to be a C. They're good. Play rec, at least a C. That's a D. He's gone. Pursuit, at least a D. They're good. Tackling, at least a D. They're both good. And man coverage, at least a D. They're good. So we have 2 free safety options. And now for strong safeties, we only had 1 option. And let's see if he meets our criteria. So physicals, speed is solid, which is good. Acceleration is solid, which we're got. Strength at least decent, good there. Change of direction decent, good there. Agility decent, good there. So let's go to attributes. And he's still at the top. So zone coverage C, we're good there. Play rec a C, we're good there. Pursuit a C, we're great there. Tackling a D, man coverage a D, and block shed a D. So block shed, and we are good there. So we have now finalized down to that. So we originally had 38. We now have 17 total players to look at in our draft. So now there's a couple things we want to go over. So one, our most important positions, which is, you remember, SAM. So do we have SAM options? We do. We have the one, estimated around 2 to 3, so we're going to try to pull him in a second round. So our next need, if you remember here, and I will pull up our needs, SAM, free safety, and then corner. So next we want to look at free safeties. So we have free safeties right here and 2 corners. So these will likely be one of our top picks. So now we want to look for, we're going to go over and see where we're at as far as the drafting goes, but we're going to want to see if we see Blankenship, Phillips, Snow, or Macklin. So now what we're going to do is go back out, go to mock drafts just to see where we're picking. And free safety Phillips looks like he's going to be going with the second pick. Well, let's find out first where we're picking. We did make the playoffs, obviously, so we're second to last. So we are looking for Blankenship. Do we see Blankenship anywhere on here? Or is there a chance he'll be available? Blankenship's going at 24. Okay. Phillips is going number 2. What about Snow or Macklin? It looks like we'll be able to get Snow or Macklin. So now what we want to do, no, Snow or Macklin's probably going to be our first pick. So there's Snow there. Where was Macklin? He was a day 3, so we can wait for him. So Snow is likely going to be our first round pick. We're going to go after Camrillo, hopefully, for our second round pick. And that would pick up a corner and a SAM. We'll be able to get another corner down here. Our free safety is going to be gone. So we don't really have another option free safety, so we're going to have to look for an undrafted free agent on that one. Or we can look at maybe trying to move up in the draft. We do have Bishop there, so it's not a pressing need. So if we can find a good developmental piece, we will. But if we obviously had extra players, I would take a swing at one. But for right now, I think we're going to be okay. But what I will do is just pull up an extra strong safety, and maybe we can transition Rapp or Hancock over there for the time being and just focus on that on the next draft, since it's not a pressing need. Whereas I do really want to fill in those. We need a SAM, more importantly than anything. So I think that's what we're going to do. So now, for the remainder of our stuff, we want to unlock these day 3s. So we want to see if any of these are worth steals, specifically Macklin. So what we're going to do now is go out of here. We're going to go to Scouting Private Workouts, since we've already got our full board situated. And we're going to sort it by projection, just because we already know our first and our second round pick. So now we want to try to find our third, fourth, stuff like that. So we want to look at Macklin. We want to look at Patton. And we want to look at Dean. And these guys are 23, so I normally wouldn't look at them, so I'm going to be honest here. We'll skip that. And we will look at... Those are all probably going to be gone. So let's just look at and undrafted. So the youngest guy here is Adams. Let's just see what he ends up being. So confirm, yes, and I'll see you in draft week. All right, so here we are in draft week. Let's go ahead and see what we've unlocked from them, since we now have our final says here. So we know that these guys are all going to be gone, so we've already figured that out. Camilla's going to be our second round pick, we're hoping. Snow turned out to be a first round pick, so we're going to probably go after our corner first round. Sam second round. And looky here. Adams, our D tackle, who's a potential undrafted free agent, we're going to be able to hopefully steal him and steal Macklin. So we're going to be able to really get some stuff based off of how the draft is supposed to fall out, and they fit our scheme. So that's going to be awesome. So I use this just to kind of see where they're supposed to go. That way I know when I need to reach for them in order to make sure I'm getting the guys that I want. So essentially we're aiming for Snow, Emilio, first and second, third round. If Adams is still there, we're probably going to go after him. Then we're going to go after Macklin. And then we're going to go after either Dean or Hall, most likely, based off of where they're at. Probably Dean, because he'll go first, and then we'll get Hall and kind of just play it by ear. But let's go ahead and I'll see you in the draft. All right, so we are here now at our pick in the draft. Let's go ahead and see who is available for us. So go to favorites. We'll sort it by how they would normally be drafted, and Snow is still there, but so is these two edges, but they're not as important to us. So we are going to go ahead and take Snow and reach for him and grab him, since he would likely go before anything else. And then we're going to grab Sam with our second pick, because I think we need a corner more than most. And he had really good stats, actually. If you remember, we'll go over to his zone coverages and stuff. Get there. I know it's ever to get there in this one. But he was B's across the board. So, I mean, he's a fairly good player. I mean, Camilla was really good too. He had A tackling, A play rec. So actually, maybe we'll grab him first. Kind of a toss-up. But since we do need Sam so bad, I don't want to take a chance of missing out on him. So we're actually going to go Camillerio with our first pick. You know, it's a little bit of a reach. So we'll go ahead and grab him. See what we get here. He is ranked 73rd. We got him at 30. He is a normal dev. And those are his stats. So not too shabby for our Sam. Now let's go ahead and skip to our next pick. Let's see what's here. Make selection. And Snow is gone. So let's go ahead and get day threes would be next. So let's go ahead and get Macklin. So we have a corner no matter what. We'll draft him. Ranked 91st, we got him at 62. Regular dev, 93 speed, 90 jumping. So pretty good stats there. Skill is pretty good. I mean, injury and stamina kind of stink there, but that's all right there. Let's go ahead and skip ahead in the draft. Go ahead and make our selection again. And these are all day threes, but I think Adams is probably going to make it, but he did have such good stats. I want to take him, and I'm not too concerned about the talent saying around 2 to 3. It's good to know that they think he's better too, but when I was looking at his stats, let's just view his player card real quick. I mean, see, B block shed, B finesse move, C power move, C tackle, 356 pounds. Physicals, great strength, and good speed. I mean, the 6th fastest D tackle. I mean, those are great stats. So, you know, I don't want to take a chance on losing out on him. So let's go ahead and draft Adams. 67 true value. We got him at 94. He is a normal dev. And he's essentially B's and A's across the board. So I feel like that's a great pickup for us. We'll go ahead and skip ahead to our next pick. Let's go make our selection here. And now we'll look at these day 3s. So let's go ahead and get Dean, speed rusher. $127 in true value. We got him at 118. So nothing crazy special, but he fits our scheme for what we need. So let's go ahead and skip to the next user pick. Make a selection. And then we can get a right edge. So let's see which of these guys had the best ratings when it came to our right edge stuff. If I can ever get over to it. So Patton did. So we're going to go ahead and go with Patton. $121 in true value. We got him at 126. They're all regular devs, which is fine. Like I said, I don't stress about devs. I know a lot of people stress about like, oh, I want to hit a dev trait in every one. You can get dev traits throughout the season. You know, you can focus player, you can start them. There's different things you can do. I'm not concerned about dev traits. All right, our next pick. We don't need another one of those. But he is probably the best player remaining. But let's look at these D tackles and see what they have. Actually, we could look at the wills because we need somebody that's got hopefully some more decent stats when it comes to maybe filling in at Mike or something, or switching one of them over. I mean, they've got great zones, so they're both great in the pass, but they're not great at rushing. They're not great at block shedding. Tackling, they're about the same, but he's got slightly higher play rec. So let's go ahead and actually, we might do Hall, but I want to see him because A play rec, A tackle, B block shed. 337 pounds, 330. Let's go ahead and let's do Harrison. Ranked 18 in true value, and we drafted at 158. Regular dev. And A tackle, C power moves, A play rec, B awareness, B block shed. So I will take that. And skip ahead to our next pick. And it looks like we have at least 2 more picks. Let's see if we have 2 more players still. We do. Hall is still there, so we're going to take Hall. He was ranked 165 in true value. We got him at 194. And he's a hidden dev. Go figure. Hidden dev in the 7th round. Interesting. And now let's go ahead and advance to our next user pick. And this is our last pick, so let's see if we have anyone still available. We do. We have 2 players left. So who should we get? So still another big D tackle. 227, another pass coverage. I mean, we can always use Wills and Mike's as well. So I think with the fact we already did a couple of D tackles, let's go ahead and do another Will. Kind of a toss-up between these 2, so. And yeah, it looks like he wasn't that great of a pick, according to them. But for us, he fits what we need, so it is what it is. We will skip to the end of the draft now, since we have no picks remaining, and let's take a recap and see what players we got. So draft recap, and there you go. So like I said, we got some 60s. I'm not concerned. We knew this guy was at the end. I mean, it was just kind of a toss-up between the 2. So, but, you know, Harrison, D-tackle 76. I mean, he could very well be squeezing in as a starter eventually. And then you've got couple 70s here, but what matters is the stats that matter for us are good. I mean, look at this corner. 93 speed, 93 acceleration. You know, awareness is a little low at 65, but the fact that, you know, he's a rookie, we can work with that. You know, 86 agility. Let's see. Change of directions, 86, so that's great. Catching's okay at 67. jumping at 90. I mean, you're not going to out jump him. So, you know, that's excellent. And let's see, how tall was he again? And he's, yeah, 6'3", 199 pounds. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty good corner down the road for us. So, all right, and that's going to be it for this episode. That's the complete 4-3 Cover 3 Masterclass Guide, from roster setup to scouting to the bust-proof system to the draft itself. If you want more Masterclass guides just like this one, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me which scheme you want next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.